Welcome along. Now I've just spent 40 days with Aconite, also known as Wolfsbane, Monkshood. Every day spending between 1 and 2 hours a day with the plant, contemplating, meditating, drumming, sound, movement, any way I can find to connect with the plant. And I'm trying to connect with the spirit of the plant, the essence of the plant, the nature of the plant, whatever you want to call it. And I'm asking myself, can I get to know this plant in the same way you get to know a person? And this plant is also highly poisonous. I mean, it's one of the poisons of choice for killing kings and queens. And also, in Greek mythology, this plant was born at the gates of hell. Well, what's that about? Join me on this journey as I try to find out more. So here's my summary of the story so far, spent with Aconite. And for this video, and maybe for the foreseeable, I'm going to call it Wolfsbane, because I've started to connect with that part of it. And then yesterday I was like, I just feel like I'm going a bit mad here. I thought I'm just going to sneak a little look at some things about this plant. I was immediately given the story of Cerberus, a three-headed dog from Greek mythology who's guarding the gates of hell. And Wolfsbane, Aconite, comes from the slobber of this three-headed dog. So we have this wildness coming in. And I was reminded of all some of the villains. You know, Gary Oldman in The Fifth Element and Leon is just the best villain. And if you haven't seen him, I envy you. Go watch them. Because he's just mad. He's like, oh, this is just fucking mad. And it's like, it brought to mind the madness of who I am. And am I prepared to embrace that? Because really, 40 years' time, I'll be dead. What am I going to do about that? Am I going to live my life or not? And it's almost like Wolfsbane was coming up to my face and going, live your madness. Live who you are. And I was thought about this YouTube, what I'm doing on YouTube, and I'm just like, part of me is a bit undecided about what I'm doing here. Like, do I really want to put myself out there? This may be the birth of my YouTube channel, really, because it's like, Wolfsbane's going, yeah, just do it. And some people might think you're mad. And maybe I'm a little bit mad. I mean, I'm spending 40 days with a plant. I mean, it's a bit mad, isn't it? People kind of respect villains, don't they? And mad people sometimes. And I don't know, sometimes maybe there's a little bit of envy in there. Like, God, they're really being who they are. They're embracing it and they don't care if they appear a little bit mad. Maybe better to live a life with a touch of madness than live an unfulfilling life or something. So I'm starting to skirt around that and I'm actually really excited. Like there's I kind of like this. It's like, oh my God, this is a little bit wild, a little bit kind of mystical. It's been really interesting because after I finished my last video, I thought I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next. And then I started to think, well, maybe I should research Wolfsbane and Aconite a little bit. And it made me think about how I just encountered all this wildness and now I kind of want to tame it. I'd encountered this three-headed dog at the gates of hell and I was like all being wild and talking about villains and everything. And now I want to go, well, let me tell you a bit about Aconite from a traditional point of view. It's a bit like I've just encountered 100 or 1,000 wild horses on the landscape and I want to lasso them all in and capture them and put them all in a corral. And then I can encounter all that wildness and be around it a lot. Well, of course, that doesn't really work, does it? Because they're wild and then you've tried to tame them. And so I'm trying to tame myself. So then I thought, well, what on earth is Aconite or Wolfsbane doing at the gates of hell anyway? And then I started to think about, is that part of the human condition? Is it that we're trying to tame ourselves all the time? That we encounter the wildness and then we want to kind of like give it some substance. And then I was thinking, well, what about the Native Americans and the Western world going over there and go, well, let's put you in school, let's teach you English and let's dress you properly and cut your hair. So we're in this wild versus unwild. And then I found out randomly, because someone visited the other day and they were talking about Harry Potter. Because they knew that I was doing this journey with Wolfsbane, and then they said, well, did you know in Harry Potter, Remus, one of the, he's a teacher, isn't he, in Hogwarts in Harry Potter, is he's partly a werewolf. I don't know what else to tell you, but he's a werewolf. And he takes this potion that contains Wolfsbane to stop him turning into a werewolf. And I just thought it was really interesting, because it's like, the werewolf is this perfect symbol of wildness versus, oh my God, the ducks, this wildness, thank you, versus not wild, versus tamed, versus that mental aspect that wants to just make everything reasonable, acceptable and palatable. I've been pondering the difference between madness and wildness, and feeling that maybe the wildness is the place where we feel connected, and maybe madness is the place where we don't feel connected. Is the madness sometimes about seeing something we're not ready to see yet? And I was thinking of tortured geniuses, as we like to call them, but people like Van Gogh or maybe George Orwell, people who've been massively creative and influential and accessed powerful information. Is there something in there about them accessing something that a part of them can't support? And then I went back and Cerberus, the three-headed dog at the gates of hell. I just had to know more. Hercules goes in to the underworld or hell to either kill or bring Cerberus out. Now, according to, let me just get his name right, Euphorion of Chalcis, from the 3rd century BC, a Greek poet. He was the first person to talk about Aconite and Cerberus. So as Hercules brings out Cerberus from the underworld, as Cerberus comes out, he vomits bile, poisonous bile. From the poisonous bile, that's where Aconite grows from in Greek mythology. I'm thinking about another name for it, which is Monkshood, which I believe is partly to do with the shape of the flowers, because it looks like a monk's hood. But I'm wondering, is there more of a spiritual element to Aconite, which I'm not yet aware of? I was talking to someone the other day who has quite a lot of knowledge of Greek mythology, and he was saying he felt the story of Cerberus and Hercules going into the underworld was very much a story of a test and, overcoming tests in life. I actually received a legal letter this week, and it was particularly poisonous and unwelcome. I received it a bit like a punch in the face, or a punch in the stomach even. It made me think, like, that Mike Tyson quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's a lovely story, this glamorous story of, Hercules and Cerberus and overcoming and the poison. It's all like very glam. Do you know what I mean? But it's like when it actually happens to you, it's like, oh shit, this is really hard. And the success is not, it's not guaranteed really. And then this week I watched Dune 2, and there's a scene in there in which Paul Atreides, his mum, has to take the water of life, which is a poison, and has to transmute the poison in order to become the Reverend Mother, a place of spiritual significance. She takes the poison and she does overcome it, and it makes for a very glamorous and wonderful story. But I don't know if it was really all that glamorous for her in the story. I know it's a story, but it's also a metaphor. It wasn't, she had to do it, and it was agony. Life can throw up things that are poisonous, things that are damaging, can be fatally damaging. I don't even mean to your life, I mean to your spirit. Abuse and meanness and hardship can damage someone, can damage me, can make someone disengaged from life, can kill their spirit. So it's about, can we overcome these things? And that the outcome is not guaranteed. And then literally, this is a true story, 2 days ago, I literally woke up in bed. What I came out of my dreams with was this phrase. It was a bit like, 3 men walk into a bar kind of joke. But the phrase was, when is a savage not a savage? So it made me think of that wildness and, well, when are they not a savage? And then I started to think about religion and civilized people and then monks and nuns. And it's like, are monks savage? Probably not. You'd probably say they're civilized. Or are they? Are they spiritual? But is it better to be a savage, or is it better to be a monk, or is it just better to be just regular? But I'm beginning to see this kind of contrast between Wolfsbane, the wildness, Monkshood, the spiritual, civilized element of overcoming our deepest, wildest desires, especially if they're not good ones. Really getting the sense of Aconite has a sense of overcoming hardship, overcoming poison, overcoming things that happen to us that are unexpected and things that are unwelcome. And can we navigate our way through that to find some sort of wider spiritual, meaningful dimension to our struggle? And it's funny because as I get into the middle of this journey with this plant, I am starting to feel some peace. After coming through all that savage, wild, poisonous, almost chaotic, savage kind of energy, as I come through it, I'm finding a peaceful place at the other side. And there's this element of daring to be ourselves. I wrote this down, no one can tell you who you are. Well, we all know that, don't we? We all know that we shouldn't buy too much into other people's opinions. But knowing and doing is different things, isn't it? So what are we going to do about that? Okay, I feel challenged right now. Somebody's done something or thinks something about me which makes me feel bad about myself or stressed or angry or whatever. So it's like, how do I go back into myself and almost slightly change who I am? That's that kind of Cerberus going back into the underworld, our underworld, and transmuting that poison. I don't know, I kind of feel like I've been pickled with this plant. You know, I've just been sitting in it, and bear with me on this, because you're either going to think, oh, that's quite interesting, or yeah, you've been in there too long. So I decided in The Matrix, the film, there's a lovely Wolfsbane Aconite moment. For those who've seen it, it's like Trinity is standing over Neo, and Neo is dead. He's there on the table, and his heart stops and everything, you know. She says, Neo, I love you. I'm not afraid anymore. That's Monkshood talking. I'm not afraid anymore. And she goes, you know, the oracle told me I would fall in love with a dead man and he would be the one. So we kind of got this faith going on here. So she goes, so you cannot be dead. And then to me, Wolfsbane comes in and she goes, now get up. And she wills him back to life. I mean, he does get up. He's like resurrected, comes back to life and gets up and fights the good fight. I don't know why I thought that. I just thought that's Wolfsbane and Monkshood working together. I don't know, for some reason. Anyway, indulge me. The word that has come to me is instinct. And the other word that's come to me is discernment. So it's like this wildness becomes instinct. What's instinctive? What do I feel I should do? On the other side of that is discernment. Because my instinct might be, I go into a bar, I'm on a bridge here, by the way, so there's going to be the odd car coming across. I might walk into a bar and someone bumps into me and my instinct is to punch them. Well, that's not a good idea, is it? You know, so a bit of discernment probably comes in there and go, well, I'm not going to do that. And likewise, I thought, well, what about sex and relationships? And somebody meets someone and they just want to, you know, sleep with them, really. So I don't know, part of what makes people high value sometimes is what they say no to, isn't it? So let's say I want a long-term relationship and then I go and sleep with someone just casually. Well, that's probably going to could harm my chances of having a long-term relationship, because maybe the sort of person I want to be with doesn't want to be doing hookups and they don't want to be worrying about the person they're with doing hookups. So maybe a bit of discernment there would be handy, just to say, no thanks, or something. I had this question in an earlier video, is what's Aconite and Wolfsbane doing at the gates of hell anyway? I don't know, my current answer is border control. I'm just wondering if we might be on the edge of the battle. I'm fascinated by this great battle, this great fight between the heart and the mind, and this battle between instinct and discernment, or that ability to mentally analyse things. You know, we get too much instinct, and maybe it's a bit divisive, it's a bit impetuous, a bit destructive. And maybe if we get too much mind, it's too fixed, not so much compassion. And it made me think of, you know, some of the chefs. They're mainly English chefs, aren't they? Well, that I know anyway, because I'm English, but Gordon Ramsay and Marco Pierre White, great instinctive chefs, you know, who are kind of wild in the kitchen. We love them being wild and they're shouting at people. But we believe underneath it, they're for the greater good. They want the best out of people. Every now and again, we see compassion break out from them, you know, as they champion some young chef or take somebody under their wing, and you realise, no, they're just so passionate. They just want this for the greatest good. And another thought I had was the poem by D.H. Lawrence. I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A small bird will drop frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself. And I just love that. It just inspires me. And maybe this is part of that border between wildness and our humanness, you know, and the battle we have with the wild thing in us. Maybe the bird just falls dead from a bough, but didn't wasn't worried about death, wasn't in fear over it. And maybe that's one of the gifts and curses we have as humans, is we get to contemplate our own death, we get to contemplate our own existence. We get to, is that a second position you do? I don't know, the second position, third position. Anyway, you get to position out of your life and look at it and go, oh, what is this death? And what is happening here? I'm trying to find my way in this next stage with Aconite of what's after the battle. It really interests me. And I came up here yesterday morning and I stood here and I was like, felt really good. And the words that came to me was, it's peace. Not like I am at peace or I aspire for peace or peace is with me. It was just like, it's peace. To help me out of this place, this battle, this great fight that I'm talking about. I mean, where else do you go but apart from Rumi? So I'm going to read this one, just the first part of it. You can obviously look the rest up if you want. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in the grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make sense. That's pointing us, alluding us to this place beyond the battle, where almost the battle begins to not matter. We move beyond and then we find a place where it's peace. I kind of feel like Aconite is daring me. It's kind of daring me to live. And this is what I wrote yesterday. I believe Aconite, Wolfsbane, Monkshood is daring me to live. Death is coming. Life may be eternal, it may be not. The outcome is not assured, but Wolfsbane says, but I dare you to live nonetheless. So there's this real kind of bravery thing coming in there. To run like a wolf, to have the discernment and the beautiful control of a monk, and to find peace, and to take your place in the divine mystery of life. I dare you. And if you don't accept the challenge, I double dare you. And I've spoke to 3 people during this journey who've all got homeopathic experience or practice homeopathy. And all 3 of them, the first word they said was shock. Aconite as a homeopathic remedy is used for shock, amongst many other things, I presume. I got this image in my head, you know, in all the best medical dramas like ER or Grey's Anatomy or something, you know, the paddles come out and they shock a patient back to life, the defibrillators, and they go like that. And I almost feel like Aconite is doing that to me. It's like, yeah, I want to shock you back to life. And I wonder what that shock is. I think for me personally, some of it is the shock of being born. I know that sounds a bit weird, but here I am in a human body. I mean, I'm not a chicken, I'm not a supernova, I'm not a tiger. I could be so many things in this creation, but I find myself human. And Joseph Rael, Beautiful Painted Arrow, he wrote a book, The House of Shattering Light. I believe he sort of, that's how he sees it here. We're kind of stuck in this house of shattering light, and I believe some of it is how we choose to approach that predicament. And maybe the absurdity of my predicament is being human and being born, and how I want to approach that, because I feel ultimately Aconite is giving me a choice. It's saying, look, you can go that way and you're going to encounter the wolf and the wolf will chase you towards the monk, and then the monk will chase you towards the wolf. Ultimately, you've got to decide how do you want to live. And I think I have a choice. You know, it's like I can sit there in the sunrise and look at the beauty of life, or I can go out tonight and I don't know, drink 10 pints and wake up with a banging headache and think, what the hell is going on? So it's pushing me towards, do I want to make a choice to use those kind of eternal ways of approaching life, like compassion, like gratitude, like love, like beauty. And I think that's kind of why there's so much personal development at the moment. Whatever I seem to run into, gratitude is at the center of it. You know, expressing gratitude for life. Do I want to engage with life? And even though I can't really understand it, do I want to be grateful that I exist? Or do I want to rebel against that and become trapped in the underworld, you know, where it's full of poison, where I cannot see my way out? Or do I want to make another choice where I go, oh my God, life is beautiful. I don't really understand it. Here I am. I have a choice, but the choice is I have no choice. Like, I don't really have a choice in being here, but I do have a choice in how I approach it. I'm stood here under these cherry blossoms that are just outside my bedroom, actually. and the dog is yapping in the back, and you can probably hear bees buzzing as well. Because I don't know if you've seen the film The Last Samurai. There's a scene in that where Kasamoto, one of his quote is, "The perfect blossom is a rare thing. You could spend your life looking for one, and it would not be a wasted life." I was really thinking about that, because what is coming to me with this final day is the word beauty, and also the beast, Beauty and the Beast. I feel that when I have beauty, I'm good, and I don't need much more. But when I don't have beauty, the dogs bark, the hound is out, I want it back. I'm like a child who's had my toys taken away. Give me back my beauty. So herein lies this mystery with Aconite of the search for beauty, and then what do we do when we don't have it? Do we go find beauty, or do we get like a three-headed dog and yap and either be unhappy or do destructive things? And I kind of have this feeling about, I wonder what it was like. Well, I kind of know what it was like because I've been told, but after World War II in England, you know, when the war was over, there was dancing in the streets. There was hugging between people who didn't know each other, even kissing, you know, just people just jubilant that the death and destruction was done. And somehow there was a hope for peace. And it strikes me that in that moment, there's kind of this mixture of regrets and bereavement and the people we miss and the loved ones we haven't got. And I'm going to hug this stranger, and there's new hope in my life of something better, something more. And I was thinking about poetry and art and music, and how this search for beauty is reflected in that. It's like the poetry points towards beauty. We look at an amazing piece of artwork, and if we're open to it, it might point us in that direction. And listen to music, you lie there and you're just so relaxed, and you're bathing in beauty. So there's this kind of search for it. And it strikes me with Aconite, it's this perfect parable, this perfect story of duality. And the duality for me of what I've got from this is the duality of when I have beauty and when I don't have beauty. And what do I do with that? And it made me think of, in Zen Buddhism, there's this idea of the koan, where a teacher says to the student, they give them a phrase that's kind of unsolvable, like, you know, what is the sound of one hand clapping? And the student will spend days, weeks, even years contemplating it. And the idea is there is no definitive answer. But in that search, maybe we can trick our mind into just leaping into the vastness and say, maybe it's a search for beauty. And my koan, after all this, that I have that fits what I've been doing is, the question is beauty, and the answer is beauty. And it strikes me wonderfully apt that I am out here under a cherry tree, and this is the cherry blossom. You know, only flowers for a couple of weeks, so there's this wonderful thing of beauty and its fleetingness, and but how amazing it is when we have it. See you next time.